Hey everybody, today we're going to be building the Tinder card swipe interaction. If you don't know what Tinder is, it is a dating app where users are presented on cards and you can swipe the card left or right to say whether or not you like them or do not like them, and then you match based off of that. Now, aside from Tinder being everybody's favorite app to pretend that they don't use, it's also the app that popularized the card swiping interaction. I don't know if it was the first one, but I know that it was among the first apps to incorporate that, and it was definitely the app that made that interaction so popular and used throughout many other different apps now. So we're going to build that. It's not too complicated, so let's get started. So I've got all of my layers placed into here. If you haven't downloaded the layer pack or the asset pack, go ahead and download that off my website. There's a link in the description. And I'm building this on an iPhone 5 canvas size. That's important because that's what the assets are sized to. And we're also going to be doing some conditions based off of the screen size. Nothing too crazy, but the screen size is important. So make sure it's a 5. And then once you've got those assets placed in here, we can put them on the canvas. So first I'm going to add the background. This is just a cleared placeholder. And then I've got the app header. Now these are separate because when you drag a card, it goes beneath the header, so it needs to be on top at all times. Then I can go and drag, let's do a card Olivia first. Just place her in here. I'm going to have the card placed in the center, which is 6 pixels in, and 70 pixels down, so it lines up perfectly with these cards, these placeholder cards. I'll just make sure that that layer is beneath the header. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to add a drag interaction to this. So come into my interactions panel, click drag and drag it onto there, and leave that just like that. So that gives us this free drag. And now when you drag cards in Tinder, they rotate. So if I pull to the left, it kind of rotates a little bit to the right, and if I pull to the right, it rotates a little bit to the left. This is so that we can see these kind of printed stamp images that say like or nope on the cards, which we'll add in a minute. So what I'm going to do is just add a rotate animation on this. We'll call this rotate with drag. Now this is going to be based off of the card's drag drag position. And it's going to be continuously to final value. Now since we're going to be adding 2 directions with this drag animation, we're going to be adding a beginning and an end point. Now make sure you're doing this on the animation rotate, not the interaction rotate. So since the canvas we're using is 320 pixels wide, the center is 160 pixels. So for the first one, I want to say begin at 160 and end at 0. So if I'm pulling to the left, I'm going to make sure the drag reference edge is the horizontal center. I'm going to set the rotation to 10 degrees. So if I pull to the left, it starts to rotate a little bit, just like that. And the reason we did continuously to final value and based off drag position is so that it doesn't automatically do it with start. It's just I can do this finally if I need to. So now we need to come and add the way to add when I pull to the right. So I'm going to click add target. I'm going to set its beginning point at 160 and the end at 320. Make sure that horizontal center is the reference edge. And for this, I'll say go to negative 10 degrees to rotate. So now I drag. It kind of shifts just the way that I need to. Now, when I let go of this card, I want to have it move back to where it should be. In Tinder, if you pull too far, it'll move off screen. We're going to set that, but for now I'm just going to make our safeguard and say if I let go of it when it's not past that point of tossing to move back. So let's call this move back. This is based off of the card's drag release. I'm just going to tell it. So it's left to 6 and it's top to 70, right where it is now. And we can leave the duration and easing curve as is. So now if I do this, it moves back home. And then we need to add another rotate animation to tell it to rotate back. So we'll call this rotate back, based off of the card's drag release. And we'll just set it to 0. Leave the duration and delay the same. So now, if I pull and let go of this card, it rotates back and goes back to the position it needs to be in. Perfect. So now I need to add the ability to make this card, if I pull it over, to fly off of the screen. So I'm going to add a move animation to this. I'm going to rename this to toss. And so you know what we're going to do is we're going to have these two cards sitting on top of each other. And if I pull this card off and it flies off, after a short duration of time, a very short, it's going to immediately snap back and flash. You're not even going to be able to see it, but underneath the card that was preceding it. And then the following card is going to do the same thing. And so what I'm going to do is just have a never-ending cycle of these two cards that you can just constantly go through. We don't have to, create multiple cards and have a finite stack. We're just going to make it go fluid for infinity. So we're going to have to add some conditions into this. It's going to be based off of the card's drag release. And I want to say that if I drag this card, say its right edge past the center point, like past here, and let go, then it can move off. And if I pass this right edge past the center point, it can move off. So I'm going to create the condition. I'm going to copy the layer ID. It's card underscore Olivia PNG. Paste it, and then say .x to reference its left edge. If I say if it's released at a position that's greater than 160, move its left edge to 400, or 80 pixels past the furthest edge. Just like that. Then we have to add a condition. Paste that. Let's say .right to reference its right edge. If it's less than, it's because we're moving to the left, which means we're counting down. So if it's less than 160, the center of the screen, move its right edge to -80. So it works both ways. And now I just need to bring this card back as soon as I've let go. So add another move animation. I'll call this reset. It's going to be based off of the card's drag release. And then I can say move its left to 6, its top to 70. We'll leave the linear or the easing curve as linear, but we're going to set the duration to instantly, and I'm going to delay this 0.5 seconds. That's going to give us time to interact with the other card. You're not going to be able to, if you go really fast and swipe really, really fast, you might see some slight delay with the resetting, but adding 0.5 is going to give us enough time to let it fly off before it moves back. Actually, we might be able to get away with 0.4. Let's see. We just want to make sure that the card is off entirely before the reset move kicks in. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Okay, we can get away with 0.4, at least for now. Great. So one final detail before we add the second card. Come into our layers, and we're going to add the nope and like assets. Now, what's nice about Pixate is that I can use this card layer as its own container. So I can place these assets inside of it, and even though the layers show it beneath, they'll stay on top in order, and I don't have to create a new container transparent layer to do this. So for like, let's make sure that this is placed 13 pixels in. I put them on the wrong side. And 14 pixels down. And for nope, it's going to be 129 pixels in and 14 pixels down. And then we'll turn their opacities off or down. And then we'll come into the animations and add a fade animation to both of these. So this first animation, this is going to be our fade in, so I'll call this fade in. This is based off of the card's drag position. And if you remember what we set, we're going to use the same values that we used for the rotate with this fade in and out. So we'll say continuously to final value. I'm going to set this one for nope. It's going to begin at 160 and end at 80 pixels in. So make sure that by the time that, that it's fully on when we go over across about a quarter of the screen. I'll set this to 100% and make sure that I'm referencing that horizontal center, or else it won't work. Just like that. Now we'll do the same for like. Call this fade in, based off of the screen's drag position. Continuously to final value. Go 160 to 240. Make sure I reference that horizontal center and tell it to come into, or up to 100% fade. So there we go. Now you can see, if I let go of these, they stay on, so I need to add a fade animation to turn these off. So I'll add 2 more fade animations, 1 for each. Call the second one fade release. It's going to be based off of the drag release. Tell it to fade to 0. Duration is fine. I'm going to add a delay of 0.2 seconds as well. So if I come over here, if I let go, oops. If I let go, it goes off. Now the same thing for nope. Based off the card's drag release, fade to 0, leave that duration, and add a delay of 0.2 seconds. So it's off. When I pull it back, if I let go here or here, they go off. Actually, you know, just to be a little safer, we can actually probably remove the delay. That actually might work better. Yeah, that actually works better. No delay for either of the fade releases. This is the process. Sometimes you just go through, you realize that what you had set doesn't really work as well, and you just gotta switch it up. Okay, so that's all we have for this card for right now. Now to make this faster so that I don't have to go and add all of these moves and rotates and animations to our second card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this card, Card Olivia. I'm going to rename this just so that I know it to Card Mila. And then I'm going to drag the Mila asset in here. Now remember what I said earlier is Pixate's doing this nice thing where I can just use my layer as the container, and it almost kind of puts the image, it kind of creates an invisible container but puts the image on the bottom. So even though I have these layers what look like beneath it, the image itself is on the bottom. Well, if I add a card into here, or a new layer, a new asset, it will just replace that original picture that I had of Olivia with Mila, and it works the exact same. So that just saves me like 15 minutes. So just drag that Mila, put it in here, and then just put the PNG, the asset, beneath the like and the nope, and it will replace it. So now the final step is to make sure that these cards can reorder. So now that we've got two, if I were to drag Mila off, she's going to move right back into her position, which is as we set it, and I can't access the other card below. So this is really easy. What we need to do is just make a new layer, make this the full size of the canvas, and we can just make this transparent and rename the layer to draggable cards. And we'll place both of them inside of this container, both card Olivia and card Mila. And then we can add reorder animations to both. Now the way that reordering works in Pixate is that you can have multiple layers reorder based off of their locations within another container or group. So if we don't have anything inside of any group, just our layers panel kind of works as one big group. But since we put them inside of this draggable cards container, any reordering is only going to occur between whatever layers are inside of it, or in our case, just Mila and Olivia. So if I come into here, I'm going to be reordering card Mila. I can select it to be based off of her drag release. And I'm going to have to use the same conditions that I set for the toss. So I'm going to say I don't want it to just automatically reset if I just drag and release. I want it to be based off of if I move it past this point. So I'm just going to copy this first condition, paste it in here. So it's saying if the left side of the card is released over 160 or the midway point, send to back. And I'm going to add a 0.3 second delay on this. I'm going to add a condition, come up here and get this second, make sure there's a space between here, this second condition saying if the right side is released less than 160, send to back and use the same duration. So now if I release the card, nothing happens, but if I pull over, now that card's in the back. Minimize these and do the same thing real quick for Olivia. So we'll base it off of Olivia's drag release, open up this toss move animation, copy the condition, paste it in there, and then say send to back, 0.3 second delay. Sorry, it's saying duration, it's a delay. And then copy the second condition for the right side, paste it in, say send to back, and delay it 0.3 seconds. So now this first one is saying if the left edge is pulled past 160, it'll move to back, or if the right edge is pulled past 160. Otherwise, they'll just bounce right back into place. So now our cards will reorder and just be never ending. So that's it for creating this interaction. It wasn't too terribly complicated, and we learned a couple cool new tricks. Feel free to play around with some of the timing on these, like the reordering and the moving back, because the way this is set up, if you go too terribly fast, you'll see the placeholder behind it. And there are ways you can add the other cards and play with some reorders so that you constantly have a better placeholder behind these cards, but you shouldn't be swiping that fast anyways. That's bad Tinder etiquette. So hope that was helpful for you guys, and I'll see you next time.